Well, hello, everyone. I want to officially welcome you all. My name is Samantha Kulish-Fargione. I am the Programs and Educational Coordinator for the Norwalk Historical Society in Norwalk, Connecticut. Our Executive Director, Diane Jellorette, and I would like to welcome you all to this evening's presentation. So before we begin, I just have a few important reminders. We are recording the lecture this evening, and we will make it available on the Norwalk Historical Society's website, as well as on our YouTube page and our Facebook page. And the recording will also be emailed out to anyone who registered for this evening's presentation. We kindly ask that you keep your microphones muted and your cameras off during the presentation. Diane and I might go down the participant list and just mute any microphones or cameras that we see turned on. So don't be offended if we do that. We just want to make sure that all eyes are on our presenter this evening. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation, and we will be using the chat feature to run the Q&A. Once again, the chat feature is the speech bubble icon. If you are using a desktop or laptop, that feature is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you'll simply click on the speech bubble and type in your question. And for those using an iPad or a tablet, you're going to tap on the three dots, which are at the top right corner of your screen. That will bring down a menu, and then you'll tap on the word chat to type in your question into the chat box. So Diane will moderate the Q&A at the end of the lecture, and she will read the questions from the chat box to Lisa. Now, if you'd like to help the Norwalk Historical Society continue its community programming, please consider making a donation at the end of the lecture this evening. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and you can visit our website, which is norwalkhistoricalsociety.org, to donate or to become a member. So we are pleased to host tonight's lecture, The Story of the Nathan Hale Fountain, with guest presenter Lisa Wilson Grant. Now, Lisa is a lifelong Norwalk resident who enjoys history, especially genealogy and local Norwalk history. Lisa's involved in many local groups. She is a commissioner in the Norwalk Historical Commission. She's regent of the Norwalk Village Green Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, the DAR. She's an exhibiting member of the Rowayton Arts Center and a member of the Rowayton Gardeners, as well as chair of the Rowton Point History Committee. Lisa is the author of several local history books, two of which I have. Images of America, Norwalk, which features vintage photographs of Norwalk, and Rowton Point, which was a former amusement park in the Rowayton section of Norwalk. Lisa is an avid quilter and photographer, and she enjoys babysitting her adorable two grandsons. And together with her husband, Jordan, she draws landscape designs for Minuteman Land Services, Inc. So without further ado, I am going to turn the presentation over to Lisa.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Samantha, for your nice words there. And I had a lot of notes to go along with this, but with this kind of a view and not knowing how to hone in on just the slideshow, it's going to be kind of winging it, but that's okay. It's probably better that way. Okay, so when I first joined the DAR, I was really interested in all the DAR monuments that were in Norwalk. So I made a list of them all, and I drove and I took pictures of everything. And I read these DAR accounts, and there was one that was missing, and it was this Nathan Hale Memorial Fountain. And so I've come to find out that this part was part of the fountain. And in 2012, when I took this picture, it just looked really sad. It was in a state of disrepair. The lettering was missing. It looked like Ethan Al. And it looked like a tombstone. It looked like nobody cared about it. And then I found out, well, actually, so I was curious about Nathan Hale. I didn't really even know who he was because growing up in Norwalk, we never really, either I don't remember or I wasn't paying attention, but I don't know. But I don't remember the whole story about him from school. So knowing about Nathan Hale, I went to it seems like I'm digressing, but this is kind of part of the whole story. I went to my Uncle Howie's retirement from the CIA. And it was there, and that's me in the black dress with the pink flowers. My Uncle Howie's next to me on the right there, and then my husband's on the left. And you know, we went to his he got a clandestine medal, and we went through the spy museum. It was really cool. And afterwards, we wandered the grounds, and there were only 3 sculptures on the property there. And first was like a cryptos, which is it's like a puzzle, a cryptic puzzle by James Sanborn. And then there's an installation memorializing the fall of the Berlin Wall. And the only one of a person is that of Nathan Hale, done by Bella Leon Pratt. And I thought that was pretty cool. This made it seem much more important to me. Nathan Hale, wow, you know, he's the only one here in this property. And he's America's first spy who, I guess, if you got caught. If you failed as a spy and you got caught, then you're known. If you are unknown, as I saw in that lobby back in the other picture, there's a book with stars. People's names are mentioned that are either they got caught or it was, I guess, okay to be known. And then the ones that died and they're supposed to remain secret even after death are just a star. So, and then that statue is the same statue as the one of Nathan Hale at Yale. So, and there's several others as well. So Nathan Hale, the quick story about him is he graduated from Yale in 1770. I can't read what it says because I don't have my notes. So probably 4 or 3, 1773. He was born June 6, 1755 in Coventry, Connecticut. And this is the homestead. And coincidentally, we share the same birth date, June 6th. And then after he graduated from Yale, he was a schoolmaster in a small school in Haddam. And this is a 1940 picture of that school. And the following year, he had a better position at a private academy in New London. Now, all 3 of these places are still in existence. They might not be in the same locations as they are in these older photos, but some, like the homestead, you can visit and get a look inside. So Nathan Hale, so what happened was, after 1776, after the Battle of the Brooklyn Heights, it left the British in control of the Long Island Sound. And Washington and his army were in New York, and they needed some more reliable information about the British, and Washington started to recruit spies. Nathan Hale had been in the army, but he hadn't really seen much action in the last year or so. So he was pretty quick to, even though it's not an honorable occupation to be a spy, particularly in this time, he signed up to do this mission, and it was to gather information about the British. His friend, Stephen Hempstead, also accompanied him on, he's one of his close personal friends. He came to be his traveling companion on this mission. And this is the route that he took. He went from New York, and he went along through Connecticut, and where that red arrow is, that's kind of off, that's Norwalk. So it was, so Stephen Hempstead, his companion, had an eyewitness account that is actually inscribed on this memorial at Fries Park down in Norwalk, Wall Street and Main Street, where they meet. There's a little park there, Fries Park. And in his account, he said, "We left our camp on Harlem Heights with the intention of crossing over the first opportunity, but none offered until we arrived at Norwalk, 50 miles from New York. In that harbor, there was an armed sloop and one or two row galleys. Captain Hale had a general order to all armed vessels to take him to any place he should designate. He was set across the sound in the sloop at Huntington, Long Island, by Captain Pond, who commanded the vessel." So if there's any question about how that all happened, there it was. Stephen Hempstead wrote it down, and he was there. And I got this off of something else that was done for the Norwalk Historical Society. According to the local historians, this was part of their show. Ed and Madeline Eckert, the boat bore resemblance to the boat that's here, 1850 Mary Willis, shown in this photo taken at Lockwood Dock in Norwalk. So that, they say, is a similar boat. The quick story is he went across to Huntington, Long Island. He was captured by the British, and he was sentenced to hang by General Howe. And his last words purportedly were, "I only regret that I have one life to lose for my country." And some people think that while he might have said that, he probably was inspired by the lines in English author Joseph Addison's 1713 play Cato, in which was written, and he might probably heard this at Yale, "What a pity it is that we can die but once to serve our country." So that's very similar. So who knows? But those are the words that he had said. So I was really excited to find this really rare book, 1901 Nathan Hale book by Phelps. I don't have my notes, so I don't remember his first name, but it has gilt gold cover and sort of handmade papers. It's really kind of cool. But what was even cooler was inside on one of the layouts is this map. And the map is the route taken by Nathan Hale. And it shows here how he went from Manhattan, New Rochelle, Rye, Stamford, Norwalk. But what was really cool is it has two inset photos in it. One is of the top, the Norwalk Nathan Hale Memorial Fountain. And the one in Hempstead, which I call the Big Sister Fountain, in Hempstead, Long Island. That's also a Nathan Hale fountain. So I had known about that one before. So that got me thinking about, Stanford White, the designer. And I found out that there was in 1894, when he did sketches for that fountain in Huntington, Long Island, there was a whole portfolio at the New York Historical Society. So I made an appointment. I went in there, I paid $15. You can take as many pictures as you want. And there was so many sketches in there for that Huntington, Long Island one. But what I found is the ones that weren't used for that bear a strong resemblance to what ended up being here in Norwalk in 1901. So this is just a couple of the sketches. That one looks like similar, even though there's no lights on the sides. It has the stele has the same agapanthus and scrolling motif, and the lion's head and the 1901 on the lip of the fountain. And these were some other ones that were similar. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And this one was this layout, this side elevation was very similar too, with the bronze fish in the back with the bowl. This ended up being the one that was the final sketch for the one in Huntington, Long Island. Huntington, Long Island had a big dedication there in 1894. I think that's in front of the library, or it's the library today. And in 2013, they began some restoration there and they got the lights working again. And while they're not exactly the lights that were in the sketch and the trough is missing, I really, appreciate anyone that does it, a restoration to get things, looking better than they were and as good as it can. Okay, so back to our fountain. So in 1901, I'm a chapter regent. The chapter regent in 1901 she always goes by Mrs. Samuel Weed, and her name is Nellie. She spearheaded an effort to get a Nathan Hale fountain. I mean, in that time period, there were fountains going up everywhere, and troughs and memorials, and it was a big kind of a fad. So she had put out the word to get subscriptions, they were called, the people to put money towards the fountain. And the children of Norwalk saved money and raised money for the tablet. I was wondering how she was able to get a Stanford White of McKim, Mead White was a pretty huge design firm in New York City. They were the ones that designed Penn Station, which later was demolished, and the Washington Square Arch and Columbia University. I mean, he's the same guy that designed this fountain. And I found out that her husband did many things, but one of which he worked at this time in fire insurance in New York City. So I'm guessing maybe he had the connections to that, but who knows? Maybe she was like me, gotten a hold of him directly and knew what was going on in Huntington, Long Island, and wanted one on this side. This is the sketch that was in the newspaper. South Norwalk and Norwalk were two separate cities, or town and city at the time. So this was the South Norwalk, the Sentinel, and it describes the proposed Nathan Hale Memorial. This is the Norwalk Hour at the same time, a little bit more of a closer up view. And this is one of the good clear shots I have from the earliest days. So this shows the front of the fountain, and you notice there's a cup with a chain on the left-hand side. And it was small, medium, large. Small were the dog bowls at the base for dogs. Medium is people. On the reverse, there was water. You could put that cup underneath and get a drink of water. And large, the horses. And this is the back. This is that plaque that the children raised money for at the rear. And it has what it's called in sculpture circles, they call it a dolphin, but it just looks like a fish, but it's called a dolphin. And then there's a ribbed bowl. So there was a big dedication with this, and it was first erected in front of the Norwalk Armory on West Avenue. Norwalk Armory is no longer here. It was demolished in 1963 to make way for the Route 7 connector, and was located approximately where the Heritage Wall is now, across from Lockwood Matthews Mansion. And there's the fountain there in the foreground. So the state DAR had a big meeting, the state meeting at the Norwalk Armory, and there was memorial exercises, and they had a trolley tour, and It was a, different people spoke. It was a huge deal, and it was presented to the mayor, Mayor Glover, and he accepted the gift for the town and city. So this is just another view of, on the far left, you can see the fountain, and it's called Junction West Avenue and Turnpike. Now, Turnpike refers to Route 1, obviously not the Connecticut Turnpike, which was not there, I-95 until late 50s. So that was called Turnpike, Boston Post Road. And here's a picture of what it says on the back. What it says on the back, it says, "The children of the town of Norwalk have given this tablet in loving memory of him whose last words were, 'I only regret that I have one life to lose for my country.'" And then that's the back. Now, I was wondering what happened to the cup with the chain, and this was on Facebook, actually. Kathleen Kiska put this on my I Grew Up in Norwalk Facebook group, that the cup was removed due to a new law aimed to protect people from the germs that infest common drinking cups. And this article goes on to say that talked about bubble fountains. That was a new thing in the public schools, and you press a button and the water shoots out and in midair, and you can have a drink. So that was really something new there, and something we all grew up with and sort of, don't think twice about. And this is another view of the Armory. It's such a more pastoral setting in Norwalk than it is now, obviously, but it's just a very and up the hill there would be, where the Norwalk Hospital is. Here's a 1917 photo of Norwalk Armory. The fountain is here. You got to kind of look for it. It's left of the car, and it's behind that bicycle. There's a boy on a bicycle, and that's the fountain. And it looks like there's the Great War uniforms way in the background, and a lot of men in hats. I'm not sure, might be they're enlisting to be in the war. Not sure exactly what the occasion is there, but my guess is it might be something like that, since there seems like there's a lot of men and they're lined up, and it's 1917. All right, so in 1924, West Avenue was widened, and this part of the fountain is called a stele. This was moved to Mill Hill. The Mill Hill used to be the DAR building, and so it was re-erected there. Now, what became of the trough at that point, I don't know. But my guess is, it was left by the side of the road because people didn't really care about troughs anymore. I mean, 1924, there was cars, and horses were like getting to be passé. And troughs were like gas stations back then. They were all over the place, and then they weren't really needed as much. So, and it weighs 1.5 tons. So it's a real problem to try to move around. There was some word one time that it might have been in front of Ambler Hardware Store, but I've never seen anything to substantiate that. I've never seen anything about Ambler Hardware Store. At some point, the trough went up to Ambler Farm up in Wilton, where it sat for about 90 years. Okay, so this is the Mill Hill building that I was talking about, and it has DAR on the front. And the stele is located to the left of the townhouse building. I put a little red arrow there. You could just see the hint of it. And the grass is long. And then at some point, I'm not sure when, it moved to Nathan Hale Junior High School. And then they added a cement base here. And the plaque that the children raised money for sat in the Norwalk Museum collection with a broken tail, and it had been vandalized twice. They had tried to roll it off, and then it was straightened. They tried to roll it off again, and then it was straightened. And I was told that this would not be acceptable to reuse, because should something happen like that again, it would break, similar to like a paper clip when you open and close it open, and then it breaks. So that's back in the Norwalk Museum collection, and we used it to create a mold to make the duplicate. All right, so here's Ambler Farm 2010. My friend Dana Laird tipped me off when I was, really wondering about this fountain. She said, well, I know where the trough is. It's up at Ambler Farm. And I think these are her pictures. And so that shows the back. I mean, I think they used it at one point for horses to drink, but it's obviously part of a fountain. And it sort of stayed there, held hostage for almost 90 years. And at one point, or many points, it was tried to get back to people tried to bring it back to Norwalk, but there was always some strings attached. They wanted to exchange rightful things to rightful places. And when I came along, I just said, look, I'm just in the DAR, and I just want to see this getting put together. I wasn't part of the Historical Society. I wasn't on the Historic Commission at that time. I just was in the DAR, and it just didn't seem right that this be up there. And I was told that Peter Bondi, that someone from the Garden Club told him that they were looking to get rid of it. So I negotiated and talked with Bob Russell, the former first selectman up there. We talked a few times. And after Ambler Family Day, we had permission to go up to get this trough. Now, that's all well and good that we were going to get it, but I just thought, well, where am I going to bring it? I don't want to bring it to my house. I don't want to just dump it off in front of Nathan Hale Middle School. So I called Mike Moke and I asked him, like, what should I do with this? Like, you don't really want to move it around more than once. You want to bring it to where it's going to be. And he had told me, Mike Moke, that he wanted to do an herb garden at Fodor Farm and have a fountain centerpiece. And I was just like, okay, great. And I wasn't thinking about Fodor Farm, but as it turns out, it's on the Nathan Hale Trail, the way he went on the Stamford path on his fateful mission. And so we just wanted to get it here. And so then my husband and his landscaping crew in the city of Norwalk, we had a winch truck. We moved the trough to Fodor and we put it off into the woods for safekeeping until we, could get the other pieces and everything back together. So there we are, bringing it to Fodor, setting it down off to the side there. And then there was a Norwalk Hour did a story, and this is the picture of all of us. Ken Hughes is there, and my husband and I. And then the next year, Mike Moke called us again, and he said, well, look, I think we're ready to go get the other part, the Steely. And he knew how worried I was about people just handling it rough and not knowing what they're doing and breaking it. And I wanted to be there. So now I went there with the knowledge that this thing, it was really 7 feet tall, not as short as it appeared when it was in the cement. So I went to there and we dug down, and I saw that the rest of the Steely continued down past the cement. So I was really glad that it was all there below grade. I was worried about how they're going to get the cement off, but glad that now this would match up and with the trough and hit the right place. This is just, they're carefully digging around the Steely when it's at Nathan Hale Middle School. And this is back in 2014. So this whole thing has been going on for a really long time. There's my husband and the crew, Mike Moke standing there. My husband had a great idea put a bed of mulch and lay it down in that bed of mulch so that while traveling across town, it wouldn't break. I mean, this thing is marble and you don't want to be rough with it. You want to, have it be a gentle move. So they had a backhoe and they lifted it and then dug a hole and set it down upright like it was over there at Fodor Farm in the woods. So I drew a landscape design plan I did a few different versions, but this was the one that we ended up going with. It was for the back of Fodor Farmhouse, and it's a parterre garden. And I found something similar like this in a McKim, Mead White book that I had. So I thought it would be great to use this to pay homage to the original designer, Stanford White of the fountain. And also it formalizes somewhat an entrance to the, that's a public building, it's not a residence. But I tried to keep it more of a country look and feel with the stone sitting walls to match the fireplace that's there. That's the next picture. This is where the cement was poured. Yeah, so this is the stone sitting wall. And this was the masonry, and the ADA ramp was all completed. It actually got narrower than I had originally planned. They had to revise it for the width of the drive coming in and the ADA ramp, but that's fine. Originally, I thought there was going to be a grass like in the center, more of a planting bed that the fountain would sit in, but it's fine. All right, so there it sat for a few years, and I tried to raise money to get this thing going, and it was really hard to get the amount of money that was needed to make it happen. Tried GoFundMe, and it still wasn't enough. And then an herb garden was planted by the city, and it didn't really work out because you could plant all these herbs there, but in a public place, people just pull them out and there's no real control over what is going on there. So it didn't really look that great. I mean, I had the cherry trees, which look actually really nice right now. They're pink to kind of play with, to go along with the pink granite. So a pollinator garden is now what's there. And that is great because, first of all, it's sort of a trend around here to increase the pollinator and butterfly garden. And there's some wonderful dedicated volunteers that just keep this up beautifully. They have information about what plants are there. They popped in a bird feeder in the middle, but so it still bothered me. I go down to my Fodor Farm community garden plot, and I'd see these two things in the woods, and I felt really responsible. Like I brought them here, and then now what? They're just sitting there. So I was on another project with the Roten Point gazebo, and circuit rider Wes Haynes from the Connecticut Preservation Trust, which is now Preservation Connecticut. I started after that topic go on about this fountain and how I'm really, I really would like to put it together. Are there any kind of grants like McKim, Mead and White that, and he says, well, hey, I know Sam White. He's the great grandson of Stanford White. And he might know people, or he might know, of grants, or maybe people that have deep pockets, and who knows, so he told me about Sam White. And Sam is an architect in his own right, and he in New York City, and he is, very, very involved with historic preservation. And he's written books, lots of books, but this is the latest one about Stanford White in detail. So I called him, and at first he wasn't really sure if it's a Stanford White, because it wasn't one that was on any list. They had Norfolk Connecticut. There's fountains there, and there's the Huntington one, but for some reason Norwalk wasn't on the list. But then I sent him a photo of it, and when I talked to him next, he's like, "Oh my God, when my his great grandfather Stanford White, when he was murdered, his partners selected the same steely pattern as the Norwalk fountain." So he was really excited to actually get involved with this now, because this is a really special pattern that that was on in his own tombstone. And yeah, the Stanford White murder, I'm not going to get into the whole thing because it's a whole nother story. But he was on top of Madison Square Garden, and Harry Thaw shot him for having a relationship with his wife Evelyn Nesbit. So there's the whole thing about that. And that was, I guess, 1906. So here's the sculptor next to the sketch with the tombstone. And in that book that I just showed you, his most recent book, there is another Joseph Morrill Wells, who some consider to be the fourth partner of McKim, Mead White, also has as his tombstone a very similar shape and steely pattern. So Sam was happy to help. And so what I did was I went down to Fodor Farm and I measured everything, and I sent him this, all my measurements, because what I was hung up on is originally the fountain was at the foot of a hill, and the water came down from by Norwalk Hospital, like that, down the hill, and would fill up, and the horses would drink the water, and the people and the dogs, and anything that was left over would just spill in the road, because people didn't care back then about wasting water. So I wanted someone to, I couldn't wrap my head around how to make it a recirculating fountain. So in talking to Sam, and he worked with an engineer, he was able to make it be that. And I wanted it to go from front to back and around like that. It would have been easier to not do front and back, just go one way. And at first Sam did it that way. And I said, no, I want it to be like the original. So here's where I was looking at his drawings, Sam White's drawings. And there was another story in the Norwalk Hour. And that was in 2017. So from 2017, it was still the same thing. For a few years, I was still looking at it in the woods there. And finally, I just said, you know what, I'm going to talk to Recreation and Parks and try to get it in their budget, as it was a gift to the city of Norwalk from the DAR. It really is the Norwalk's responsibility to keep up the maintenance on it. So I went in front of the Planning Commission. I had a whole big letter, the whole history, not as much detail as I'm saying now, but kind of, about how this is important to Norwalk and should be refurbished and put back together. I mean, this was last year, and look how dirty the steely was. It's only clean in that spot where the lettering is, because the copper and the bronze washed. I guess it kind of bleached. I don't know, whatever the scientific thing is that happens with copper, with marble, that's what's going on there. But the rest of it was really dirty. So Francis from Conserve Art, he was my vendor of choice. I'm so glad that he was awarded, because he had like a whole turnkey approach from beginning to end, and he's so detail oriented. He recast the plaque on the back, and he fixed the dolphin, the fish tail that was broken, and because he found good reference for it. And I'm not sure if it was an Augustus St. Gaudens or not. A lot of the fountains and works were, but that's still not definitive. And then he created new letters. It was first in wax, and then they get made. And there was a new ribbed bowl created, because the The bowl is just missing, as was the lion's head. And so last year went down there and he had removed all the cement from the Steely. I was so glad. It looked so great. You know, you couldn't even tell that cement was there. And he carved a new lion's head, and he kind of went off the photos I gave him. And that looks pretty good. And it had that medallion behind it. And this was the new tablet that's shown here on the left, and that's the old one, or the original one. And it's a little bright. He patinated everything, so it looks a little bit older. And here's the Steely all cleaned up, beautiful carvings. And this was the horse trough is clean. The pink really started to come out. Looked really great. All right, so in the fall, we loaded the trough. We had a crane and we lifted it up and brought it over to put in the plaza area here. And Francis had marked with masking tape the exact spot it should go in. And the crane operator told me it was 3,100 pounds. So that's 1.5 tons. My dad, the math teacher, told me the other day, and lowered that into place. There's my grandson. He was thrilled watching all of this, the Steely, and you know, everything going into place. We kept him away, but then we brought him close after it was down so he could get a good look. And this is the back. The children of the town of Norwalk had given this tablet in loving memory of him whose last words are, "I only have one life to lose for my country." My dad thought it was life to give for my country, but everywhere I see now it's life to lose for my country, like this says here. And there it is, all clean and looking fabulous. There's the dog bowls. Now, Francis wasn't happy with something he had gone to Stony Creek and got pink granite, similar to the Knoxville, Tennessee pink granite that the trough is. And now he's gotten replacements that he likes better. All right, so this is the front of it, and the lion's head still wasn't there. Now this is the lion's head. It temporarily it looks like the lion's smoking a cigar, but that was because he didn't want the water to drip onto the edge and stain over time. So it's not going to be that long. We're going to trim it down. And this is the new dog bowls that we got from Stony Creek. And that's the Stony Creek Quarry. And here it is in place, ready to be unveiled. Well, you can see it now, but you're getting a preview. But on June 6th, we're going to have unveiling. So here's the back. And another look of it. Yeah, it was Knoxville, Tennessee, and Milford, Massachusetts. Milford, Massachusetts is the trough, and Knoxville, Tennessee is the marble. And that's everything that I have here. I put here, because this was part of another slideshow I did, but that the first page of my Norwalk book now is not correct. The first picture, you could correct it to say that it has now been installed at Fodor Farm. That it's going to be. And that's everything. So, okay, let me see.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get back to any, but.
Oh, you can stop your screen share, and it's red at the top.
Okay.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, please put them into the chat.
Lisa, that was just a wonderful presentation. I am so glad that you stuck with it. And I've been on that journey with you. It's you get to a certain point, and I thought you were going to give up, but you didn't.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it was like almost a decade of doing that. But but once you get in it, you're committed. I mean, nobody else is going to pick it up. Nobody else is going to help. So
Yeah, and Fodor Farm is it's the right place for it to be. It's a wonderful addition. If I don't know how many people have been to Fodor Farm, it is a gem of a place off of Flax Hill, and you should go and visit. So it found its permanent home. I don't think we're going to move that trough again with how much it weighs. I think it'll be there forever. So there's a question. When is the formal unveiling? You talked about it just quickly, but say it again when the formal unveiling is.
it's going to be on June 6th at Fodor Farm, and I'm saying to get there at 1:30, and then we'll have a unveiling at 2. That way everybody can get there. I don't know how many people are going to be there, but there's going to be media and dignitaries, and so it could turn into a bigger thing. And if that's the case, there's not that much parking. You might have to park at Brookside School and walk over. I don't know how that all
Yeah.
works.
I'm sure they'll figure it out, the parking. Another question. Did Nathan Hale get captured on the first mission?
Yeah, this was his first and only mission. This was the first one. Yeah. But it was over on the other Long Island.
Okay. Lots of people are thinking, great work, like I'm saying to you. So Nathan Hale traveled Flax Hill as his route through Norwalk.
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause that was really the only cross road that there was through Norwalk towards the water.
Okay, at the time.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share about Nathan Hale or this project?
No, I think I covered it all. I mean, there was more like dates and facts and stuff, but I think that's pretty much the lowdown of the whole thing.
Yeah, we got people from all. We even got someone from London to hear your talks. So we're very, very, very happy, and I'm again very happy that you continue and pursue this for years. And it's finally found its home. And I didn't realize the granite was pink. So now that it's been cleaned, we'll enjoy it. It'll probably keep clean now that it has a permanent home. Is there any other questions that anybody has? Put them in the chat. Otherwise, I'll bring up some things that are coming up with the Historical Society. On June 3rd, we're going to have a living history event with Dr. Darla Shaw, a virtual chat with Mary Woolley. She was an activist and educator, so that will be on June 3rd at 5:30, and it will be on Zoom. And then going into June, we are going to have some tours at Mill Hill. June 5th, we're going to have self-guided tours. You can purchase tickets on Eventbrite. So noon 1, 2, and 3. We'll have you can tour the Governor Fitch Law Office and the Little Red Schoolhouse. And on June 27th, which is a Sunday, there will be guided tours of the Little Red Schoolhouse and the Governor Fitch Law Office. And the other thing is we're finally reopening the Norwalk Historical Society Museum next Wednesday after the long pandemic. So we're reopening starting at noon on the 26th. So if you haven't been there in a while or you missed it, I know some people said, I miss going to a museum. Well, we'll be opening up again. So thank you, everyone. And we will be hopefully seeing you on some of our additional events. And anybody who knows Lisa and wants to say hi, you can unmute yourself. You can turn on your video and say hi. I know Lisa recognizes some friends out there.
I do, if I can navigate around. My first time doing this.
Yeah, it came out well. We got some history teachers on here from Nathan Hale
Oh, great.
Middle School.
Hi, Lisa. I'm
Hi.
Dr. Gibson from Nathan Hale Middle School.
Hi.
Thank you very much for all your hard work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm just so glad to get it all behind me now. People are tired of me talking about it all these years. So,
You came through. You came through.
yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Hey, Lisa, this is Todd Bryant, and I just want to thank you for your amazing ability to stick with this project for as long as you did. I mean, like you said, many people, sometimes including me, thought that it was kind of over. It was sort of, but it just your tenacity is spectacular. I can't thank you enough for what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I'm speaking for myself, but I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for the rest of the Norwalk Preservation Trust as well.
Absolutely. All right, that is all we have for this evening. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time. Good
Okay.
evening.
Thank you.